Yeah, that's right. And that's how we should approach it. We shouldn't see, well, that person's better than me, or why can't I be? We're always going to want to have something. And that's the beauty of it, though. When you can see someone and you admire that strength of theirs, maybe it'll inspire you to do better and to try to find a way to make that a strength for you as well. But know that someone else is also looking at you and the strengths that you have and wanting to have that strength.
Yeah.
That's such a good way of saying it.
Mm.
That's so true. I've had so many conversations with, well, not so many, but I've had numerous conversations with people about that exact thing. Like I've said, oh, you're mashallah, like you're really good at this and this. They're like, yeah, but you do that really well. I'm like, oh yeah, I
Yeah.
do that really well actually, and I should embrace it. You know, lean into it, do it more. And likewise,
I'm the same.
Mm.
I'm the same. That's why I resonate with that, because I've had people say the same thing, because I'll be like, oh, I envy you that you can do that. That's amazing. I wish I had that skill. I wish I could do that. And then people bring up, sometimes it's like Allah sends them to me because I'm probably feeling a little bit crappy about myself, and they'll still send them as reminders to me. And I'll be like, yeah, I guess. Not
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah, exactly. We all need that reminder sometimes, you know, because we all have our little insecurities. You know, that's just how we are. We're all made that way. None of us are that confident and, you know, arrogant to think that we haven't got any flaws, or, you know, they exist.
Well, that's the point. That's how I see being a believer, because we strive for ihsan, we strive for excellence. Nothing is always going to be good enough for us, not in the in a toxic way, but because we're always told to strive to the best of our abilities. So I think it's just recognizing, yeah, I aim to strive, but Allah doesn't expect me to be perfect. And it's also just keeping at the back of your mind that all those moments that you're feeling awful, all those comparisons that you want to do, Shaitan's at work there. Shaitan wants you to feel like that, because it's going to you're going to get into a mindset of I'm not enough, and your self-worth and the comparing and all, and it's a spiral. So it's just like, I always remind myself when I'm having those moments, like, oh my God, Shaitan has just gotten to me. I'm going to back out. I'm just going to A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem, bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Go away, Shaitan. You are not winning.
Yeah.
And that's all I always have to remind myself. It's always on the attack. So that's why you always have to, that's why self-awareness is so important. And when you're self-aware, you know how to fortify yourself from Shaitan and anything that can prevent you from achieving your excellence in your closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yes.
Yeah.
Love that about knowing who you are, because we obviously have all of our strengths, and obviously we then have areas that we're not great at, we're rubbish at, but that's okay, because there's other people that are great at those things. And to be able to acknowledge or just become aware, as you're saying, about what are those strengths, which obviously that quiz helps, but then also, what am I not good at? Because there's one, yes, we should absolutely immerse ourselves in our strengths, but for me anyway, when I acknowledged what my areas of downfall, whatever it is, the things I'm not great at, that really helps me go into the world and know what I should lean into. But actually, if anybody was to ever throw a comment at me or anything about, you know, my areas that I'm not good at, that's okay, because I've got the self-awareness to know I'm not good at those things. And that's okay. It's okay to not be good at those things, because Allah made me that way.
Yeah. I think of it as being on a battlefield. You know what tool is amazing for you to use, and then those other tools that aren't going to be so great, and they're going to be your weaknesses. And it's the same thing, like you said, with everything in life. When you're aware of your weaknesses, you're more able to not allow the shaitan to get to you. because he's going to utilize those weaknesses. It's not your strength, it's those weaknesses. And when you keep denying them and don't admit them, then you're more likely to be attacked. Of course you are. Why wouldn't you? You know, that's why, like, in battles, they know who needs to go at the front lines, who needs to go in the back lines. Dunya is our battlefield and shaitan is like our enemy. So we need to be prepared. And that's really understanding who you are, what your weaknesses are and what your strengths are, and being able to fortify yourself from those weaknesses, like, you know, the weaknesses, and empower yourself with your strengths.
Yeah, it's such a great exercise to do. I did it a few months back, about a year ago actually. The Life Coach School podcast, she talks about a really simple exercise of the two. So this is obviously separate to your Islamic personality, but because this is non-spiritual, but basically a piece of paper with a line down the middle of, what am I great at? And if you don't know what you're great at because you're going through a period of insecurity or whatever it is, what do you love? Like, what do you enjoy doing? What fills you up? Because that is typically where your strengths lie. But then, you know, go to that place that makes you feel uncomfortable and think, well, what am I not good at? What, you know, what are the weaknesses? Because you've got that awareness, like you say, you're protected by having that self-awareness, and that is just a massive step forward into the world to know, yeah, like you say, the shaitan may try and get me with my insecurities or what I'm rubbish at and say, oh, well, you're bad at this, you're bad at that. Yeah, I know I am, and that's okay, because I'm going to lean into these, which I'm great at.
Yeah, well, because as well that you can make dua and plans in order to make those weaknesses as strengths, or minimize the risk of if something happening that's not desirable. And what I do is, when if I don't know what my weaknesses are, or say my strengths, this is the way I tell. What am I complaining the most about? And who am I complaining the most about? Because sometimes when you're complaining about particular people, you're sort of projecting, because there's something within yourself that you perhaps recognize, you know, I don't think sometimes you'll recognize it, but if you dig deep, you'll be like, oh yeah, I sort of do that too. And they're weaknesses. So whatever you're identifying as a weakness in someone else is in fact probably weakness within yourself, because if you had that strength, you would have been pointing it out to begin with. So, you know, perhaps if someone's talking too much, oh gosh, they talk too much, gosh, they're annoying, and you got to ask yourself, okay, why am I finding them annoying? Maybe I'm annoying, or maybe a part of me is annoying, or maybe someone's told me in some ways that I'm annoying.
That is absolutely true, Nadine. It's
you know, if I'm reflecting on me, that's the way I identify my weaknesses. If you're really having struggles in knowing what are my weaknesses, that's the way I would approach it. And then I would look at as well the things that I admire in other people, because usually what I admire in somebody else is something I don't have, and that's a weakness for me. So I think it's looking at what did you admire in the individual that you talk about, but also the people that you talk badly about, or kind of have that thought process about. They're your weaknesses. So it's actually the good and the bad of that side of the person that you're looking at.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, it took me a while to kind of, you know, on my journey of self-reflection and self-awareness to recognize that.
Is it something you have studied, Nadine, or is it something you just figured it out? Because I know you're doing some sort of psychology and counseling and all of that.
It's not something I studied, to be honest. This is stuff I just picked up intuitively. And then when I had studied it, it made a lot more sense. Yeah. I never understood or had the terminology, I would say the psychological terminology for it. But then I was like, oh, like it was like a epiphany moment. Like I knew it. I just didn't have the evidence to justify what I could
Yeah.
see and feel and do. I think that's why it comes so naturally to me.
Yeah, because the pieces of the puzzle just fall into place. Because, like you say, intuitively you know, but then you've got the evidence to back it up, and the terminology, as you say. On the point about when you admire something in somebody, that can be a weakness.
It could be a weakness for you.
Okay, could that ever be the opposite, where you admire something in somebody, but actually you admire it because it is an area of strength for you, but you're not leaning into that strength, and you're not doing anything with that strength, and that's why you admire that person, because perhaps they are doing something you want to do. So it's a strength.
That's correct. Yeah, but it's still a weakness because you haven't strengthened it yet.
Right.
You have it, it's underlying, it's there,
Yeah.
but it's not at its potential, and you know that, you feel that.
Yeah. That's so interesting, isn't it?
It's really
It's a
interesting.
good exercise to think
That's
about.
why you identify the strength. That's why you admire it, because you know you're capable of it as well. You just aren't doing the work for it.
Yes.
And that's why it's a weakness. And the same goes with when you criticize someone, because you also have that weakness for the criticism that you're making against the person, because that's within you, and you know that is within you. It's just no one has exposed it, or maybe some people have and told you, and you don't know, but you know yourself.
And sometimes I think we need to dig deep on that, because like I'm thinking now, who have I criticized lately? And I'm like, I don't think that's a weakness of mine, but actually we cover things up, and we cover them up to protect ourselves, to not go there.
That ego.
Ego. And actually we do need to go there. Like, that's such a great exercise. Like, who are we criticizing on what? And then dig deep. Like, why? How does that reflect how I am, how I feel, where I'm at?